Good afternoon to you all, and welcome to the 20th edition of the EQ Lunch and Learn. I say that and I smile, and I can't believe that we're already at edition number 20. As always, we have a great topic lined up as we explore how emotional intelligence can transform your life and equip you to navigate the world of work. As I always say, our responsibility is to bring the learning, and yours is to bring your lunch and an openness to the learning. Today, we're talking about gratitude. A famous quote by Deepak Chopra says that gratitude opens the door to the power, wisdom, and creativity. In this era of COVID, post COVID, gratitude is key component of emotional intelligence. Practicing gratitude creates a heightened awareness of your emotions as well as a greater understanding of others. Intentionally focusing on people and things that one is grateful for also strengthens empathy and helps to build stronger relationships. Research suggests that the impact of an attitude of gratitude also transforms organizations. Expressions of gratitude lead employees to feel socially valued and to believe that the actions they take on a daily basis make a difference in others' lives, which motivates them to be more helpful, to be more cooperative, and to go the extra mile for the organization and their team. Today, we're going to be talking about how gratitude is a key component of emotional intelligence and how one can build this gratitude muscle. We'll talk about how your attitude of gratitude can positively impact career growth and career development. And we'll talk about the impact of gratitude within organizations, ensuring positivity and ultimately productivity for the organization. As always, I will not be leading this conversation by myself. I have a panel of amazing guests who are going to be helping me to have this conversation. So, allow me to introduce my guests to you. Let me start with Stephen. Stephen Njunge. I'm going to bring him on stream as we kick off the session. Stephen Waweru Njunge is a human resources officer in charge of learning and development at the United Nations World Food Programme. He is an L&D specialist with 10 years experience in content design, training design and delivery, professional development planning, employee engagement as well. Interestingly, Stephen started his career as a high school teacher in 2009. He shifted to banking in 2010. So he lasted 1 year as a teacher, and maybe he'll tell us about his experience today. And he was in the banking space until he found his passion in L&D in 2011. Stephen is a family man. He loves genuine connections, growth, and some good humor. Stephen, it's really awesome to have you here this morning. This afternoon. If you'd like to connect with Stephen, we've shared his LinkedIn, a link to his LinkedIn profile. Stephen, say hi to us all.
Thank you, Mucha. Good afternoon, everyone. Wherever you're joining from, good morning, good afternoon. And I'm very elated to be here. Thank you, Mucha, for having me. And I'm so much for looking to this conversation. Yeah, and I carry my
Fantastic.
lunch, so it's gonna be fun.
Fantastic. Thank you
All
very
right.
much. I also have with me Rita and Jerry, and let me tell you a bit about Rita. Rita is a full-time campaigner on the positive impact of gratitude in human interactions. On the professional front, over the last 15 years, she's worked in the fintech, health tech, and telecommunications sectors across Africa and India. Rita loves storytelling, and she's spoken in panels and exciting forums such as Africa Women in Tech, Facebook ID8, and the CXI Transformation Summit. To learn more about Rita, you can connect with her on LinkedIn. Rita, so happy to have you here today.
Absolutely excited to be here and to be able to be part of a conversation that I'm absolutely passionate about.
Awesome. Thank you. So let us kick off the conversation. As I was telling the panelists when we were backstage, the idea is for us to just have a fun time together. And one thing I've noticed that whatever the topic is, somehow we always find the best panelists to share insights on the topic. And today we're talking about gratitude. September has World Gratitude Day in it. And I am also grateful. September is my birthday month. So I have a lot to give thanks for. My question as we kick off, and Rita, I'll start with you since I brought you on last. How would you describe gratitude? And do you think the terms gratitude and appreciation mean the same thing?
So how I'd describe gratitude is the lens with which you look at life from a point of abundance.
Mm,
Because with the way life is, we sometimes just waltz through, every day. Sometimes you take, the breath that you have for granted, the food that you have, the shoes upon your feet. So having gratitude is actually viewing life from a point of, wow, actually I have this. I'm lucky to have this. Great. Actually, you notice the small things and the big things, and it's an attitude thing, and it's a lens that you view life. When you look at gratitude and appreciation, I like to differentiate that from a point of gratitude is an inside job, where appreciation is an outward expression. So you you can be a person who looks at every single thing. You count your blessings, and you count the things that you're actually grateful for, and that's a you thing. But in terms of appreciating that, Mucha, look at you doing PTS, and this is something that is actually going to leave an indelible mark in this generation, and we appreciate you for that. That's the difference, which is it's an outward thing. You recognize something in someone and you actually speak to it, and it also just gives the feedback of that is just for people to look at life from a point of I am making a difference. So that then becomes a byproduct of appreciation. But you cannot have appreciation without gratitude, because gratitude is the foundation of it. If you view it from the lens of gratitude, then you're able to actually appreciate people and things around you that much easier.
wow. I love it. Thank you very much. I like what you said that gratitude is viewing life with a lens of abundance. I think that's a really powerful statement. Thank you very much for sharing. And Angie says, yay, Rita. Angie, you're welcome to the conversation today. A big hello to some of our regulars. Paul, great to have you here. Paul says, looking forward to this conversation of how gratitude is able to unlock human potential. Eddie, great to have you here. Anne, thank you very much for joining us. Stephen, let me ask you the same question. How would you define gratitude, and what do you see as, the difference or the similarity between the terms gratitude and appreciation?
All right, thanks, Mucha. And I'm not sure if your birthday has already happened or not, but in case, happy belated. If not, happy birthday in advance.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
So I'm so much looking forward to this conversation, and great points, Rita, there, and very powerful. And so to me, I believe you know gratitude is a requisite, you know, to appreciation,
Hmm.
because it has to come from inside you. You have to see it as a half full, not as a half empty. Because most times what happens is, and it's a human instinct, you tend to incline towards, what have I not done? What am I lacking? But you forget, to look at, the bigger picture, like what have I been able to accomplish? What do I have at hand? What do I have which I can use to help me get where I've not been able to get? So to me, I think gratitude is that, that attitude of being thankful, and just playing pause in times of panic. Just pause, like just look at you, reevaluate. Yeah, I've come all this far, or this is a brand new day, so I'm not going to freak out. I have never seen this day. Just as Maya Angelou says, I choose to celebrate today because I don't think I've seen this day ever. So start from there, very basic. And once you do that, then you get to appreciate what is around you, the people around you, the environment that you're working in. And therefore I believe, an attitude of gratitude is that, attitude of looking at life and saying, my glass is this full, right? And since I'm this full, this is what I'm gonna do to get it to, wherever I can push it. But
Mm.
if you come in with an attitude of, oh my God, I'm lacking this in this in this, then that really throws you in disarray. And therefore, we really need to embrace that attitude of gratitude, so that we can, we can be able to face what life throws to us. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Stephen. Both of you have talked about the idea that gratitude is an attitude. And I think that's a really great place to start, right? So that then means, my understanding from what you've shared is that your gratitude isn't really about what's going on, right? It can be in spite of what is going on. And I think that's a really powerful thought for us to kick off the session. A shout out again to those who have joined us. Robert, it's great to have you online. Robert says gratitude is the language we need to learn and speak every day. So again, this idea that, gratitude is not something that's about our circumstances, it's something that we can learn to do better. Catherine says, looking at life through the lens of abundance. Ah, what a woman, Rita. I think that comment you shared was really inspiring. I must admit that I thought that was quite powerful too. Faraha, great to have you here with us as well. Thank you so much to everyone who's joined us. Really looking forward to unpacking this a bit more. If you've just joined us, we're at the very beginning and we're talking about the idea that gratitude is an attitude. So it's a decision that you make, which means it's not really about your circumstances. Rita, let me come back to you. In our daily life, the smallest of disappointments can be the things that break us the most. How do we
Mhm.
ensure that we find the smallest gratitude, even in the worst of situations?
It's something that you have to exercise because disappointments are part of life. Yeah, so that happens, whether we like it or not, whether we are doing everything that we are supposed to do when we are supposed to do it. So the magic there is to always process what you're going through and always look around you, the things that are actually working despite the disappointment. So, for
Mm,
example, say you're disappointed that a meeting that you were supposed to be going for, that was going to be closing you're closing a big deal, and that doesn't actually come to fruition when you want it to come to fruition. But there is something that you can look at, as far as I still have this job, I still have an opportunity. I'm grateful for the fact that despite the fact that this big deal is not coming in, I have a chance. I still have breath in me to be able to look for other opportunities. So in terms of just stopping processing the disappointment, because it is important to process the disappointment, but in the same breath, just look around and say, what's working for me? wow, I have a job, I have another opportunity to be able to push whatever I need to push, and you take it all in stride. Taking it all in stride is very akin to gratitude, because if you do that, then the disappointment has its place, but your attitude does not change in terms of recognizing what is working out for you.
Mm, I like that. I really like that. So it's okay to be disappointed, right? We're not
Absolutely.
saying then that an attitude of gratitude says that I'm always happy, I'm always smiling, and nothing ever disappoints me, nothing ever gets me down. It's
Correct.
what I'm hearing you say, Rita, is the disappointment has its space, right? And I can, take a moment to feel that disappointment, but in the same breath, look around to see what I can be grateful for, and then focus on that rather than focusing on the disappointment. I really like that. Eddie Marks Eddie Marks says that a grateful heart is a magnet for miracles. I really
Absolutely.
like that,
See?
Eddie. That's really, really, really great. Um, Stephen, I want to come to you. How can we show appreciation on a daily basis? So we've talked about the fact that gratitude is something inside, right? And as I am grateful, I'm able to then project that outward, right? So how do
Mhm.
we show appreciation on a daily basis, especially in a work environment? Because we're talking about how to utilize the skill of emotional intelligence at work, and our focus today is on gratitude. So how do we get to show this appreciation?
Wow. Interesting question. Thank you, Mucha, for that. I think I'll speak from experience and what has worked for me in the past and what I've seen work for my friends, my colleagues. So I believe for the first thing for you to to show gratitude or to embrace gratitude, you gotta show up every single day, because like that is the first thing. Wherever or whoever you tap your energy from, you gotta do that because you have to show up. Because if you don't, then that is where it all starts. You start looking, all the negatives. But if you show up with proper energy, I know it's in life, not every day will be the same, and that's why I said, wherever you tap or whoever you tap the energy from, if you need to speak to someone, you gotta do that.
Mm,
If you need to
mm,
read to something, you gotta read. If you have to read a verse, I don't know, Bible, Quran, you have to listen to a podcast, listen to a song which really lifts you up, because you have to show up for you to embrace an attitude of gratitude. Then in the workplace also, it as I said previously, we tend to concentrate on the 1% or the 0.1% that we have not done right, but you forget about all the 99% which you got right. So you don't have to conquer the world to celebrate
mhm,
yourself. So start with the small wins, and that is how you grow that attitude of gratitude. If it's something that you had set as a goal and you have accomplished it at work, on a personal level, that is something to celebrate, and just embrace gratitude and be thankful about that. Because if you do that, then you set yourself in a position to motivate yourself every single minute of your day, every single day of your week, every single week of your month, every month of your year, and it becomes like a chain. And therefore, you gotta show up, you gotta celebrate small wins. You don't need to conquer the world to start celebrating, and also motivate yourself daily. I know one element which has kept us going as a team, not just here, also like from my previous workplaces. Every time you start a week, just begin by sharing what we call two roses and a thorn. Because now that sets you, you have to identify, look at the past week, what really went well. Let's celebrate that. And that is what we call the roses. But then not everything went well. So what is that thorn? Okay, let's talk about it. And by just talking about it, you are self-aware, and you come to appreciate the fact that, anyway, I agree this did not go well, and I'm very open to being supported, or to hearing how any of us would approach it differently. And that really comes out, and it helps us build that culture or attitude of gratitude. Just appreciate yourself before you can be appreciated. You have to be your own cheerleader. That is for sure. All right, so if you're not, you have to celebrate yourself before you can be celebrated. And I believe, if you do all those, then I know, and I believe you will embrace an attitude of gratitude in your personal life, and also in your workplace. Yeah.
I like that. I really like that. Rita, you look like you wanted to add something.
No,
Look like you
I
wanted
just,
to add
I just,
something.
that's like so spot on in terms of celebrating yourself. I don't think we do that enough, because that's like the literal source of even having an attitude of gratitude. Stopping and saying, you know what, I am doing this well. I have come this far. I was able to. I wasn't able. I didn't think I was gonna be able to do this in the morning, and I've been able to do it. Or last week, I didn't think it was possible, but it's possible, and I'm grateful that I have been able to do it. It's when you start to look at things in that way, and you start from a point of I. And then you fill that cup of yours. You're able to fill other people's cups. So I just wanted to say that, Steven. That's super powerful.
Thank you very much, Rita. And I agree with you 100% that when you fill your cup, it's when you can fill the cups of others. It's going to be very hard to be someone who expresses appreciation to others if you are not grateful
Hmm.
for yourself and grateful for the wins. And I like what you said, Stephen, about celebrating the wins
Yeah.
and starting your week by actually celebrating the successes and really reminding yourself of what you've been able to achieve. It's when we focus on what we have been able to achieve that we're able to, look ahead with anticipation to what's coming. So Anne says, yes, she feels this story of celebrating wins. And Farahab, is already asking questions. So Farahab, we're going to come to that question. Thank you very much for sharing it. I love the questions that are coming. We're going to come to all the questions. So please do feel free, share any questions that you may have for us, and we are going to come to the part where we'll ask, or I'll ask my panel to answer the questions. Stephen, you sounded like
No.
you're about to say
Yeah.
something, and I think I interrupted you. Please go ahead.
Thank you. I just remember something. In the spirit of embracing gratitude, and this will cut across. It could be on a family or in an organization. Yeah. So once you appreciate, like, why you are there, and your role, and the role that you play, like, that is the only time that you will start seeing whatever you are doing is really adding value in the whole chain. And there's this example I like to tell, especially when you're doing these teamwork trainings. Yeah. When JF Kennedy went to the rocket space, I think it's in, I don't know where, but in the States. Yeah. So he met the janitor, and and he asked the janitor, Mr. Man, what do you do around here? And the janitor was so appreciative of what he does. He said, I'm working to take the man to the moon. Like, that is how you start, because you know that whatever you are doing, you appreciate, you are grateful that whatever you are doing, it's contributing to a bigger objective. Not just, don't look at, well, I'm just filing here, so, like, that stops there. right? In a family level, you would say probably, I mean, I'm the last born, so there's not much that I. But like once you look at how that chain is all built up, you'll understand and you will come to appreciate the role that you play in whatever institution or system that you are in. And I believe like that is powerful in as far as if you want to to embrace gratitude, especially at your place of work. Look at the bigger objective or the goal of the organization, and you can be able to
Mm,
tie whatever you are doing, which goes into achieving the big objective of your organization. That's just what I
yeah.
wanted to point out. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Stephen. Catherine says, Amen. Learning to love the journey is so important. So, really being grateful for what it is that you do, what you bring to the table, and what your journey is critical. And that's a great observation. Rita, I want to come to you because I'd like us to explore a little this idea of gratitude at work. So, in an office setting, we get to meet different people from different backgrounds. And some people are very negative. So, yes, I start my week, I'm very positive. I identify the things I'm grateful for. And I have this amazing high as a result of recognition, of recognizing how far I've come. But here I am interacting with people who are just so negative and miserable. How do you cope with other people's negativity in order to ensure that, firstly, it doesn't drain you, it doesn't bring you down, and secondly, that you have a cordial and positive attitude towards work?
That's an interesting question. Because I mean, in and itself, to talk about people being negative, or sort of wet blankets in the workplace, is subjective. So most of the times what we see is maybe as a result of what people are going through, or past experiences, or whatever. So it's not, you see a very small part of what that person is going through, and the outcome either becomes negativity, or just people who just want to pull you down. How it's worked for me, because I'm not special not to have encountered negativity in the workplace, and I can't also say that I have been 100% positive in the workplace. That would be fair to say. Is always find something that you can speak to about that person that is not negative. Like you sometimes you kill it with kindness. Even the ones that are begrudgingly coming to work, or they have nothing good to say about the organization, they probably have fantastic handwriting, and focusing on, and it was just something as small as that, right? Like, so you speak to that thing that is good about them, and appreciate that thing that is good about them, even if it takes you a long time to find it. And what you will actually realize is that the response of that is not going to be negativity. That also helps you sanitize the area that you're working, because the person then feels that they can let their guard down, that they can look at life differently. They'll be like, okay, so what's wrong with Mucha? She's always just finding fantastic things to say about me, and even more importantly, speaking to the things that are not an outfit, but something that they are core, and then they start to realize, what, it's not all bad. Or you beat it with also just talking about the good things that are happening that affect them in the workplace. So that's how to, speaking from experience, to balance it.
I like that. Kill it with kindness. I think that's really critical, and that's actually a biblical principle.
Mm,
This idea of focusing on the positive. The amazing thing about the way we are wired is what we focus on expands, right? So when I focus on the negative, when I focus on the negativity of this individual, that's all I begin to see, until
correct.
all I see is negativity, and all I associate with this person is negativity. But when I focus on even the slightest thing, and I like the example you gave that perhaps they have good handwriting. When I focus on that slight thing, what happens is it shifts my attention. It shifts what I focus on. It shifts what I see, And surprisingly enough, you may then find more of those things that you can appreciate. But yes, as Catherine says, it requires grace to be able to deal with individuals who are like that. Thank you very much for the comments that keep coming, loving the engagement we have. Catherine says, learning to love the journey is important. I think I'd mentioned this before. Farahab, I see your question. We'll come to all those questions as well. Kennedy says it's important to appreciate that we are contributing towards a common goal and we do matter. I think more and more this is critical. And, critical to just have that understanding yourself, to have that value that you place on yourself, that no matter how small you are, as far as the different cogs in the wheel, you
Correct.
actually make a contribution. And Anne says, whatever you do, work with all your heart as working for the Lord, not for human masters. Angie says, so true. I've been guilty of that before. Once you fixate on the negativity, it grows. So, what you need to do is shift your focus, Minkrasi says. So, thank you very much for all the comments that are coming through. Eddie says, loving the conversations. Just to add a quote by Kent, it's funny. The funny thing about life, once you begin to take note of the things you are grateful for, you begin to lose sight of the things that you lack. So, very, very true, Eddie. Thank you very much for sharing. Stephen, let me come back to you as we continuing this conversation about gratitude, and I hope it's clear that this attitude of gratitude is something that's beneficial for us in our personal life, but also in our work environment. What we focus on expands, and so when we focus on what we're grateful for, we find more things to be grateful for, regardless of how difficult the situation you are currently facing. How do we measure how better we are today than we were yesterday? Right? So you're talking about the fact that I must look back and reflect, Stephen, and say, yes, I've done better, or this happened. And I think Rita talked about the idea that I didn't think I'd be able to, but I was able. How do I
Yeah.
measure this progress so that I can be more grateful for it?
Wow. Thanks, Mucha, for that. And I'm also loving the conversation, following on the comments, quite interactive. So how do you measure how better you are becoming? Or did I get the question right? I think so.
Yes, yes. How do you
Yes.
measure your progress, right? So
Yeah.
earlier you talked about the idea of perhaps starting the week and reflecting on what you're grateful for. So how do you measure that I've made progress? Because in this gratitude, the idea is to be grateful and thankful for the progress
Hmm.
I've made. So how do
Yeah.
I measure this progress? Yeah.
Awesome. So I think it starts from intrinsic. It has to start from inside you. If you feel out of embracing the attitude of gratitude, I feel I have more energy. I have more drive, and I feel more confident and very just curious to to go out and do your thing. So I think it starts with the energy, intrinsic energy that comes. So if you find that it's having an impact with how you show up, then that is definitely a good thing. But also, that's intrinsic. But also, if it's having an impact around the people around you, if you're able to motivate the people around you more, if you're able to manage or manage conflicts better, if you are able to also come in and be that breath of fresh air, because trust me, like in every crowd there's that one person who people are like, I gotta talk to Mucha. She will know just the right words to say to me. So if you realize you're having that kind of impact to the people around you, then that attitude you're embracing about gratitude is rubbing off other people, which is a good thing. And also I also believe there is what we call feeling forward. So, the one of the reasons why we don't really look at the bright side is, we look at failure with a dim lens. Like it's really something that I don't want to talk about. I really want to sweep it under the carpet and try to manage things, on the floor. But if you embrace, failure, learn from it, and also you are able to, share your lessons from that. That is what we are calling failing forward. It is a hidden kind of behavior, or kind of a kind of gratitude that you're giving to yourself, because you are more self-aware and you're able to come out straight and say, yeah, this is what happened. Yeah, I did this, but it didn't work out. But I have taken these lessons, and therefore this is what I'm going to reroute. And therefore, if you realize, and that is a good progress, if you realize that, over time, because of being appreciative of what you can and what you cannot do, you are grateful. You embrace that attitude of gratitude, and then you are able to learn to embrace that failure, or failing forward. Then that is also an indication that you are getting better at at embracing gratitude. And finally, I believe life is all about finding that balance. So you're saying, yes, gratitude, but let it, there's a borderline between arrogance and being grateful. So that balance also needs to be there, so that you don't come off as someone who just wants to just yeah, there's something we call positivity, but there's also positive outlook. So that balance also, if you're able to get the balance, then that is also an indication that you are really embracing that mental attitude or mindset of being gratitude. I think, I don't know if Rita, you got something to add, or maybe Mucha. Yeah, over to you.
No, no,
Fantastic.
good.
Fantastic. Thank you. Thank you very much. I like what you said about this idea of falling forward. I think that's such a critical part of expressing gratitude. When we are grateful, we're grateful even for the mistakes we make, because we recognize that these mistakes can be an opportunity to learn. And the idea then is to focus on what is it that I can learn from this mistake that I've made. And I think this is something that's critical for those who are leading teams, recognizing the efforts that the team has made, even when things go wrong. So we can be grateful to members of our team for their efforts, even if the outcome isn't necessarily what we had desired. And I think that's another way that we can express this attitude of gratitude. Fantastic. Thank you. Thank you very much. Before I come back to you, Rita, let me just sample some of the comments that have come through. Loving the engagement. Thank you so much, everyone, for sharing your insights and even for the questions that have come so far. We're coming shortly to the point where I will share your questions with the panel. So Sharon says, what you focus on expands, so enlightening. Ambassador Paul says, when gratitude is our life's guiding principle, then it turns what we have to be enough. How powerful. I like that. Waithera is commenting on this idea of gratitude and how it can help us in the workplace. In the workplace, not participating in the negative discussions by either keeping quiet or avoiding indulging in those conversations. I think that's really critical, because the reality is that if we're not careful, because emotions are contagious, we can catch the feelings of others in the workplace. And those feelings can bring us down and cause us to reflect on what's not working. And if you focus your attention on what's not working, you will find more to focus on. So Gideon says, somebody said, happiness doesn't bring gratitude, but rather gratitude is the gateway to happiness. How powerful is that? I really like that. Thank you very much, Gideon. Indeed, this goes back to the earlier point you both made, that, it is an attitude. That's why we call it an attitude of gratitude. It's not really about how you are feeling. You're grateful sometimes in spite of what you are feeling. All right. So, Rita, let me come back to you. as we continue this conversation about the power of gratitude. I'm going to ask you one last question. And then after I've done that, we'll open it up to the questions. There's quite a few questions that have come through already. Rita, there's a quotation. When I stopped living in the problem and began living in the answer, the problem went away. When I stopped living in the problem and began living in the answer, the problem went away. So we're talking about this idea of gratitude being an attitude. How do I apply this on a day-to-day basis?
I don't even know that I agree that the problem goes away completely.
Okay, all right,
Let's start from
right,
that point.
yeah.
But embracing or looking at everything from a solution point of view obviously goes a really, really long way.
Mm,
And how to apply this in the everyday is ask yourself two questions. The first question is, am I doing my absolute best as far as this problem is concerned, or this whatever I am tackling is concerned? Because therein lies feedback in terms of what can I improve, what am I doing right, and then it doesn't even matter, what anybody else says, because you have applied yourself in the best way you could to be able to tackle the problem. And with that, then the problem becomes that much smaller, and you're able to solve the problem, and the problem then goes away. The second way of it is looking at. I do this a lot. I enter every room. I start every project, every task that I have, and especially when I'm working with other people, with everybody wants me to succeed. So you already have a mentality of, I'm walking into a room and I know in this room everybody wants me to succeed. There probably could be people, and there could be different things that will stop your progress, or might be a blocker. But once you have that attitude, everything, like you then forge forward, because there's nothing that is opposing you, and you go further that way. It's like a mind trick for me, but it works so well. It works so well, and then I live in a state of appreciation and in a state of gratitude, because I know everybody's cheering me on, even if I can't hear the claps. I look at it from a point of I'm doing my absolute best, and that's something that I take stock end of the day and ask, for this thing, did I do my best? And if I did do my best, everything else is secondary. Even the learning that I would need to apply myself to maybe handle a problem better has nothing to do with the fact that I did not apply myself. So, and for that to stay in a state of, I'm super grateful that I was able to apply myself in the best way I possibly could. And that's on a daily basis.
I really like that, Rita. I think it's really powerful what you said about coming into a space with a mindset that everyone here is cheering me on, even if you can't hear the applause. I mean, how powerful is that? And I think that really shifts your perspective, because when we go into that people just want us to fail, it actually does mess with our psyche. But when we go into spaces, go into meetings, go into interactions with teams, go into presentations with a mindset that everyone, regardless of how it may appear, right? Everyone in this room wants me to succeed. You interpret what you see differently, right? So what looks like a frown that you might have interpreted as negativity, you then interpret as concentration. And so
Absolutely.
it shifts things. I love that idea. I really, really love that idea. So ask yourself, am I doing my best? And celebrate the fact that you're doing your best. And then tell yourself that everyone wants you to succeed. Catherine calls it a Jedi mind trick. I love that, a Jedi mind trick. Thank you very much. And it's critical to understand that, as Sylvia says, catching negative energy is real. Emotions are contagious. It is true. It is scientific. We talk about the idea that laughter is contagious, but what we know is emotions are contagious. And so if you're not careful, you can catch the negative energy, from others. And remember that, we perceive what we see from our own context. And so if I come into a space from a negative perspective, then what I see is negative. If I come into a space from a positive perspective, what I see is positive. Thank you so much for sharing these insights, Rita and Stephen. I want to sample some questions that we have, and I want to go back because I remember there was a question that came quite early on from Farahab. All right, so Farahab has a number of questions. So let me start with this one. How do you not let disappointment cloud your vision so it doesn't feel like everything just didn't work out, especially at work? So, how do you make sure that, earlier we talked about this idea that, it's okay to feel the disappointment, right? But then shift your focus. How do you make sure you don't get stuck in that disappointment? Because, our emotions can really hold us hostage. So, how do you navigate that? Um, Stephen, I see you nodding your head. Maybe I can get you to respond, and then Rita, you can also share your thoughts on that question.
Oh,
Stephen, you
sorry.
need to yes.
Yeah, I thought I clicked, so I think it just need
No
a
worries.
double click. Yeah, yeah,
No
no worries.
worries.
Yeah, so I was saying, yeah, very good question for Ahab. How do you not let your disappointment cloud the vision, so that it doesn't feel like everything just didn't work out? And this is like especially in the workplace. So I believe, having being in people development for quite some time, and I think like what really would make a disappointment cloud your vision is when you feel or when you think that you don't have a sufficient support system, to turn to. All right. And as we said, gratitude, yes, it starts, from inside you, and but also just learn to also appreciate what is around you and how can you leverage on that. And that's when I said, whatever resources you have, it could be tools, it could be people that you can tap into. Please just do that, because what really happens is sometimes you just need to refocus, or just take a break from this, and just come and look at it freshly, and then you will see a different perspective in doing whatever you're doing. All right. And sometimes it just needs to just reach out to someone, and just give ask for their opinion. It could be your peer, it could be a supervisor. So those things really work, so that when you feel disappointed, probably there is one bit of the jigsaw that you're not, you missed. And by just looking at it from a fresh eye, or a third eye, or just taking a walk, coming back to it, you'll be able to see where you missed, where you made the wrong turn, and you can be able to just recorrect your steps. But that said, we aim to get better. It could be on a personal level, personal or interpersonal skills, could be also technical skills. So also, I'm a very big fan of, if you find a blocker, I usually say, you're not the first one. So there is someone who has gone through that. And in this era of technology, there I can tell you, like, so many times that I have hit a dead end. But I turn to Quora, because like Quora, you just type in a question, and you get all these major and so many answers. So like, just leverage on what you can, and take that as an opportunity for you to grow or get better. And you'll not see it as a disappointment, but rather you will see it as an opportunity. And by the end of the day, you will be like, okay, yeah, I'm really glad that happened. Otherwise, I would not have known about this system. I would not have known about this process. you know so just looking at it from those two perspectives, I think that can really help. And I hope, Farhab, that speaks to your question. Over to you, Rita.
Thank, thank you. Thank you. Yes, Rita. Any reflections on that question?
Um, Farhab, I think that it's important because disappointment can be crippling, and sometimes you feel I, this has gone really, really badly, and I don't know that I'll be able to either apply myself with the same intensity because I'm disappointed, despite giving it my all. I would. Something I do is in that moment, try and find just two things that are working out in that environment, just two things, and try and balance it out, process the disappointment, but also focus on it's not all bad. There's even you look at it from a point of, oh, I probably was given this to do because I am competent. I got this job because I am competent. So this one thing that hasn't worked out, or these two things that haven't worked out, do not define me. This is an event. It's not the end all be all. And because it is an event, there's also a couple of other events that have happened that stamp that I am good at what I do and that I can do better. And this disappointment is not the end of it. And then do the things that you do to exhale and defrag and log off and start again tomorrow, and just cut your losses for the day, and then you start again the next day. But I do feel you in terms of disappointment and how it tries to define everything that you are, and it is not the truth.
Mm, I like that. I like what you both said. Steve and I like the approach that have a go-to person who you can decompress with, and I think that's very much aligned with what you've said, Rita. That do whatever it is that you need to do. So if it's not a person that's your go-to, then do whatever it is that enables you to de-stress in that moment. But I like the idea of having a go-to, someone that you're able to just decompress with. And then I like what you said as well, Rita, this idea that when we are disappointment, when we fail at something, when we have challenges that we're facing, the tendency is to view this as a definition of who we are. And so it's important in that moment to remind ourselves that this is an event. It's not who I am. Yes, it may appear all encompassing. Perhaps you've made a mistake in at work that is a terrible mistake. It's a very big blunder, and it feels as though it's the end as you know it. But I think taking a step back and reminding yourself that however difficult it is, however embarrassing it is, however challenging it is, it's a moment, it's an event, and it doesn't define who you are. I think that's really, really powerful. And then reminding yourself of alternative stories, right? So this idea that we need to tell ourselves alternative stories, and reminding yourself of the alternative stories that exist about the things that you have done well, rather than just the things that you failed at. And so as Stephen says, in the disappointment, you focus on the lesson, and what you learned, and after that, look back and recognize that it was something that was helpful for you to go through. And it's hard sometimes, right? For Ahab, we recognize it's hard to pick yourself up and focus on the lesson, because in that moment, the emotion is all consuming. Our emotions are powerful enough to override rational thinking, and so we can find ourselves stuck in that emotion. And so we need to then do the work of reminding ourselves of the other side of the story. And one thing that I can add to what has already been said is our thoughts and feelings are very much intertwined. And so the minute we begin to tell ourselves the alternative story, the story of what we have done well, the story of the successes that we've gotten in the past, we actually begin to change how we feel. So fantastic. Thank you. Thank you very much for sharing. Farahab had another question that she asked. So, if you don't necessarily get appreciated at work, does that mean you're doing a bad job? Rita, I'll stay with you and you could share your reflections on this. If you don't get appreciated, does that mean you're doing a bad job?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. It's I am the kind of person who really likes to be told good job. So if I could be paid in thumbs up, I literally could be fine with it. But what you realize, especially in a work environment, is that people don't do that often, and even when they do it, sometimes it's not out of recognizing that you're doing a good job. It's I've ever seen someone say good job, they're not even like holding eye contact. You don't even know what they're attributing it to. And you're like, okay, so please, quantify it. What have I done well? All that to say, because being told a good job for people like me is super important. What I have learned to do is clap for myself. And that's why you really need to look at it from a point of what I said before. Have I done my best? Has this task or my role, am I doing well? And there are different metrics that you can look at, and the metrics that an organization uses to say if you're a performer or you're not. So you might not be told good job, but all those indicators say that you're doing a good job. You woke up in the morning and you applied yourself to something, and after that you're like, okay, take a step back. I'm doing a fantastic job. And the more you do that, the more external validation doesn't elevate you or cripple you. So you're able to just maintain that, and you're able to be like self-assured that you're doing great, and also surrounding yourself with people who can have candor and kindness together, to be able to call out the things that you could do better as far as our job is concerned or life is concerned. Really does go a long way. But for I have learned to clap for yourself, it really goes a long way.
I like that. So, really learning to appreciate yourself, learning to celebrate small wins. I think, Stephen, you said that earlier. So, this idea that clap for yourself, celebrate the small wins, reward yourself, right, for what you're doing well. And I think that, it's really critical to learn to measure your output so that you know how things stand, even if no one else is sharing it. I think this is something that's really critical, and it builds that internal muscle that says, yes, I like being appreciated, but if I'm not appreciated, I can appreciate myself. I can appreciate what I bring to the table, and appreciate the fact that I'm giving of my best. One of the things that I've realized is that, and I think it's partly because of our education system. We celebrate the output so much more than we celebrate the effort. So I think it's also important to celebrate the effort you made. So, and I think we talked about this earlier, this idea that even when you don't necessarily get the outcome that you desired, it's also good to look back and say, okay, I didn't finish where I wanted, but man, I really worked hard at this, right? I really did make an effort. And I think that is critical. Catherine says, being your own star player is of most importance, for sure. And there was another comment I wanted to share that came through. Hillary says that you are a piece of a puzzle and your uniqueness cannot be understated. How powerful are those two reflections? So let's come to another question from Anne. And Anne says, how do you show gratitude as a leader? Right? So maybe you're a leader and you feel, you know what? I wonder, have I been a leader who expresses gratitude? Have I been appreciating my team? What are some quick tips that you would share with a leader who wants to appreciate their team members more? Stephen, let me start with you, and then Rita, I'll ask you to share your reflections as well.
Yeah, thanks. How do you show gratitude as a leader? I think it all comes back to inclusion. I would say, like, that's a big one. know your team, and by knowing your team, you'll be able to like know what works for them, like what is their love language. Some people like to be told, words of affirmation. So if they do a good job, that's what you do. Some people just lie, they have different styles. And in your team, take that time as a leader, understand your team, know, what works for them and what really motivates them. And therefore, when you do that, then you can be a more inclusive leader, because whatever works for everyone, you are able to support them better. And in that also, in the sense of showing gratitude as a leader, I believe in what we call like open communication. That's also very key, because you will give opportunities to everyone. Nobody will feel like they are left out. You go with the element, like a good leader never leaves anyone behind. Yeah. And remember what they say. So in a herd of buffaloes, the pace is as fast as the slowest. So it depends on, as a leader, what are you doing to the slowest in your pack? How do what efforts are you doing consciously, to bring them to par with the rest of the team, because you don't want to leave that. There are some cases which we can say, yeah, they are like gone, like performance wise. But as a leader, have you tried to be inclusive and bring everyone on board? Make sure that everyone has a visibility of where you are leading, what the vision is. And if you do that, then you are showing gratitude to your team. Also, there's something we call empathy. As a leader, also be empathetic, because we are at the end of the day, we are all humans. All right. And I think it's Rita who said this. Whatever we see in behaviors is just a tip of the iceberg. So these people, your team members, could be going through God knows what. But here you
Mm,
have deliverables which are aligned, from here to A to Z. You have all these deliverables which you need them to achieve. But then suppose a performer does that, and then they are not able to achieve, but you don't take time to get to understand, is there something that is happening beyond work which you can support them in. So
mm,
empathy in leadership is also key. So three things, as I said, be inclusive, have empathy, and also open communication, fair opportunities to everyone. Yeah.
mm, mm. Wow, thank you. Thank you very much. I like your point, and Rita, I'll come to you shortly to share your tips. But I like the point you made about this idea of what we call situational leadership, getting to know your team. I think that far too often leaders have a one size fits all approach. And some of that is because you, as a leader, don't want to come across or make it appear that you're favoring certain members of the team. And so, in wanting to be impartial, you then have a one size fits all. But as Rita said earlier, she likes getting those thumbs up. And when you appreciate Rita, for example, in the style that she doesn't receive, then your appreciation is useless, right? It's like it's falling on deaf ears. And so it's really critical, as Stephen says, to understand what is your team's love language. How do they like being appreciated? And then spend the time appreciating them in that way. There are those who want to who are moved by receiving an email that speaks to exactly what it is they did. There are those who want you to give the specifics, right? That I noticed you doing X when we were working on project Y, and I thought you did it really well, and just wanted to take a moment to say thank you. Wow, there's someone who's going to be blown away by that email. There's another member of the team who just feels like, those are just words, right? So it's critical to know how do your team members receive appreciation. Rita, your thoughts. How do you show gratitude as a leader?
I really really love what Steven said, because that's it right there. To be able to have everybody in your team feel seen, and
Mm,
having everybody in your team feel seen is by knowing how to communicate to everybody. I work in a commercial role, and in a commercial role, it's very easy to gauge how well you're doing, and because it's very result oriented, you know, we are your output is in revenue, and if you've not gotten to this level, then we know that you're not doing well. But outside of that, so it's very easy to say, oh, Rita, great job, because you're at 100% of your target. And as you said, Mucha, we don't look at the effort. We really don't look at, and especially in the commercial functions. So for in an environment like this, especially where gratitude is expressed by you get commissions or you get a placard because you're the best salesperson, it is important to know how everybody works and what makes everybody move that is outside of remuneration and a leaders board that is put somewhere. That's the trick. Leaders need to show appreciation and show gratitude in a language that each and every person will be able to understand. So again, I love handwritten notes. So if my boss wrote me a note and said, you know, what you did last week for the team was great. We see you and thank you. That will go a longer way than him saying that he's going to give me a stipend of
Oh, it looks like we lost Rita. But I think that, you know, she was really clear in what she was saying as she agreed with you, Stephen, that indeed you must know what your team members appreciate. And, you know,
Yeah.
I'll give another example of the same thing, that you might think you're doing a great job by taking your team out for lunch. So there are team leaders who will think, in order to appreciate my team, let me take the entire team for lunch. But you might have team members who don't actually necessarily see that as something that's speaking to them, right? This idea that
Mhm.
you've taken them for lunch. So we were just echoing your sentiments, Rita, and I was giving an example that you have team leaders who feel, let me take the team for lunch, right? And so they take everyone for lunch, and as far as they're concerned, they've done a really awesome job at expressing their appreciation. But there could be a member of the team who it would have been far better to receive that email you talked that I talked about, or that handwritten note that you talked about, Rita, as opposed to this lunch that we're going on, because perhaps for them that lunch doesn't really move them. So I think this idea of knowing your team is really, really critical. And to all the leaders who are on the call, to all the leaders who will listen to this later, it's important that you invest that time, because here's the thing: when you express appreciation in the language I receive best, it shows that you've made the effort to know me.
mm,
Shows that you've made the effort to know
Yeah.
me, right? It's the same way that, as much as, yes, we all like to receive perhaps a voucher, there's a difference when you receive a gift and someone has taken the time to understand you and they've given you a gift that you like, as opposed to someone who gives you a gift voucher. I'm not knocking gift vouchers, don't get me wrong. And since it is still my birthday month, Stephen, my birthday was on the 1st of September. I'm open to receiving gifts still, you know, and gift vouchers work. But you get my point. This idea that when you give a
Yeah.
gift that you can see someone has really made an effort to understand you, I think it has more
Yeah.
impact. So yes,
And
making
and and
sure
and
that
also,
you
if
know the team.
I don't know, if I can add, there is
Yes.
also, what you call, and looking at from both a family perspective and also work perspective.
Mm.
Consider a boss here, or a leader, or a parent. Yeah. So you will show gratitude to your kids or to your team if they have been good. All right. And like, one of the biggest forms of showing that is being available and affirming their security. It could be in the workplace, like, or as your team is out there, kicking it, doing everything, and therefore, if they know that you got their back, that is a form of gratitude, because the leader is aware that this team is out there, doing all that they can to hit the goals. And therefore, for me to show gratitude, or to show like I appreciate, anything that I can do to, to just, shield them, make sure that they're working in a good environment, just affirm that availability, like I'm here for anything that you need, and also giving them security that, especially when it comes to, if you're working in a, like in a big organization where, cross-functional engagements can be really tough. It calls for a leader to really, stand firm in what the team is doing. Otherwise, you'll be, being taken front, back, sideways. And therefore, it really calls for a leader who knows what the team is doing to show gratitude or appreciate them by being there to affirm their security and availability. That's what I wanted to point out. Yeah.
I really like that. The reality is that we all appreciate affirmation, number one. And number two, we all appreciate when our leaders are available to us. And number three, we all appreciate when our leaders provide support, when we know that our leaders have our back. And so, just thinking about what you said there, Stephen, that means then that if you work for the kind of leader who's always throwing you under the bus, that doesn't inspire feelings that this person is grateful for who you are and what you bring to the team. So it's really critical that we show evidence of how available we are and how supportive we are. So thank you for that.
Yeah.
I have a couple more questions I want to ask the panel, but before I go to that, I'm just checking to see if there's any other questions. If you have any other question, please do share it in the comments. We have a few more minutes of the Q&A. What I wanted to add as far as leaders and expressing gratitude, I think there's three additional things I would say to add to what Rita and Stephen have talked about. And one is just actually engaging with your team and greeting them when they arrive each morning. You'll be amazed at how far a greeting and connecting with the team, goes to showing, to Stephen's earlier point, your availability, goes to showing how you appreciate the team. I've interacted in organizations where either I'm engaging with the organization because I'm doing a pitch, or engaging with the organization because we've come on board to provide training or whatever it is. And you come into that space where people aren't talking to each other. People get into a lift and no one says anything to anyone. And I think that that's a really negative culture. And so for me, I think just really going out of your way as a leader to connect with members of the team, and just those simple courtesies of saying good morning. There's an African saying that translated is, it can be interpreted to say, did we sleep in the same bed, right? So people act as though we slept in the same bed. You just pass each other in the corridors. You're not saying hi, as if we were together when we woke up this morning. So just something as simple as that. A second thing for me is actually saying the words thank you, right? Actually saying those words, right? There are leaders who are of the opinion that if you say thank you too often, your team will take you for granted, or, I don't know why. It's like thank you is a curse word. Thank you is not a curse word, leaders. If you're here, say thank you. Learn how to say it. You can never say thank you enough. As long as you're saying it with sincerity, you can never say it enough. The only time when thank you becomes redundant is when it's evident that it's not sincere. So we can tell that you're just saying the words, but you don't actually mean it. So say thank you. And then when you say thank you, specify what it is you appreciate. You're doing a good job is great, but it's better when you can be specific. So that's the third tip I would give to leaders. Be specific about what it is you're appreciating. Rita, I noticed in the last meeting we had with our clients that your presentation was phenomenal. I thought you did a really good job of articulating our value proposition. Thank you. That was a really great job. That's so much better than just telling Rita, Rita, you did a good job, or you're doing a good job. Rita comes away clear that you're not just saying it for the sake of saying it, because you have an example that you would give. So for me, those are the three things I would add. Number one, let's just be, cordial to each other and greet each other as we come across each other, in the corridors of work. Make it a point as a leader to connect with your team. Number two, say thank you. And number three, be specific in your thank you. So let me come back to my panel. If you still do have your questions, share them. Yes, Rita, you wanted to add something? No?
No, no, no. I just wanted to say to connecting with your team. Very simple things like eye contact. Very simple things like a little more than what this person is doing in your organization. They have a pet. What's a pet's name? How was your weekend? I know you golf over the weekend. How was that? Just humanizing everybody goes a really, really long way to creating a fantastic environment in the workplace for a leader. And those are the things that leaders are remembered for.
Yeah, very true. There's that saying, isn't there, that they may not remember what you said, but they will remember how you made them feel. And I was preparing for a presentation I was doing for a client, and I was doing some research. And there's a statistic I came across that I thought was quite scary, to be honest. It said that 85% of workers in the US, for 85% of workers in the US, their boss is the worst part of their job. That's scary, right? Their boss is the worst part of their job. And I think that as leaders, we really need to change how we do leadership. And a key part of changing how we do leadership is recognizing that you're working with human beings. These are people. These are people who have emotions. These are people who have life. These are people who, as you said earlier, Rita, have so much that's going on that you have no clue about. And so just extending that small courtesy makes a very big difference. Farahab says, I never thought that being available and affirming their security is a way of showing gratitude to your team members. As we always say, Farahab, we provide the learning. All you must do is provide the lunch. And so hopefully you're learning some really great insights. This month, we have the theme of gratitude because we have World Gratitude Day, right? So World Gratitude Day was on the 21st of September. As we begin wrapping up this conversation, and I'm always amazed at how quickly the hour and a half goes. As we begin wrapping up this conversation, I'd like us to wrap up with a thought around daily practices. So I'm going to ask this question to both of you, Rita and Stephen, and I can start with Rita, then come to Stephen. In celebration of this World Gratitude Day, what are some ways you think we can practice daily to ensure that we maintain that attitude of gratitude? What are some practical tips that you could share, something that I can do on a daily basis that helps me? And I know we've shared some, things, but just to bring our conversation together, what would you say, Rita? Maybe 3 tips that you could share that someone can practice daily to have this, to maintain this attitude of gratitude.
So I'll talk from a point of I've maybe 5 years now. I started to journal, doing gratitude lists every single day, and in the beginning it was easy because I'd repeat, thank you for life, thank you for my job, like I'm grateful for all of these things. But then I decided to challenge myself, and this is where the gratitude practices on a daily basis. I would encourage anybody who's listening to do this. Is task yourself to do a list of 5 things you're grateful for every single day. But here's the twist: you don't repeat. So the first week is gonna be easy, yeah, because there's a lot you can be grateful for, that you can see and that you interact with, that is obvious. But after you've exhausted that list and you need to do 5 things every single mention 5 things every single day, you will start to really look for what you can be grateful for. And shocking, because you will always find those 5 things to be grateful for. So doing that every single day makes you that much more mindful of just how many things you're sometimes you go through life without noticing, and that you call them for gratitude. The second thing in a practice would be count your wins. Yeah, and it all goes back to what Stephen said and what we've discussed throughout this session, which is count those things that you've done well every single day. What are my wins? what are my wins for the day? It's not what everybody thinks it's a win, but if your win that particular day is actually successfully getting out of bed,
Mm,
for a win and be grateful for that win, and put it there, and also just try to always take stock of how your day has been, and not so much I could have done this better, but I did this great. And then number three, as a practice, is among your people, whether it's in the workplace, whether it's in your family, whether it's people you're interacting with, even on the streets, find something to actually be, call out something, give a compliment and mean it, or actually tell somebody you're grateful for them and articulate why you're grateful for them, and make that
mm.
practice, and your life will be better for it, and you're going to also just be, spreading positivity. Um, um,
Fantastic. Fantastic. I love that. I love that. I love that. Before I come to you, Stephen, I want to just reflect on some comments that have come through. Daniel, great to have you here. Daniel is one of our regulars and a former panelist. As a woman, man thinks, so they are. I think that's such a powerful piece of scripture, right? It's impossible to outfeel your thoughts. Loving this conversation. Focus on your wins, and you will continue to win. The converse is true. So, as we said earlier, what you focus on expands. I keep telling my kids this: what you focus on expands. And if you focus on what is positive, if you focus on what you're grateful for, you find more things to be grateful for. And there's a song that says, "Count your blessings, name them one by one, and you'll be surprised, right, at what the Lord has done." Catherine says, "Wah, proper challenge, but I'm ready to take it on. I've really realized that a spirit of gratitude does make every experience better in this life. Thank you very much." Catherine, do not go away. I have a gift I want to share with you all once Stephen has shared his reflections on some practical things that can be done. And we're going to talk about a gratitude challenge that we'll be launching after this. So, Stephen, over to you. What are some practical
Thank
tips
you.
that you can share that can help us to
Wow.
have this attitude of gratitude?
Wow. Coming after Rita just summarized it. But it's very hard to come for me to get a comeback. Well, I will build on what she has said, and I really agree. But I'll just classify them in three. Then you can choose whatever works for you. So I believe like the first one, like why most people don't are not really grateful because in goal setting something was not smart, and therefore you don't have a specific commitment or accountability for you to hit that. And that's why you find yourself rolling the new year resolutions time and time again. So I would say let's as a practice have smart goals. And it could be a daily thing, because like for me, I come in the morning, I'm a very very I'm a planner, so I write down what I wanna do for the day. And then when I'm driving home, I'll be having that quiet time, just going through like what happened in the day. And you'll be amazed by how much you have been able to achieve. And
Mm,
that brings me to number two, focus on yourself. And by focusing on yourself, you're able to have that conversation with yourself, and you're able to appreciate like what you have been able to do. And you gain that sense of self-awareness. Is it that you need a quiet time? Do you need to go for a walk? And that gives you what you need to focus on. Just reflect back,
mm,
and you get to appreciate. You could be just stay in the house, just chill, have that 30 minutes, look at what the week has been, then appreciate what has happened. Go for that drive, just speak to someone. I mean, it all depends, but just focus on yourself to help you
mm,
to reflect. Then the last one, so I've said focus on yourself, that's like quiet time. Then also goal setting. Be a good planner, because that is the only way you can be able to tell what you have achieved, what has fallen through the cracks, and you're able to appreciate that. Then number three, I would say, support system. I think that's also a good one. If start with yourself, be a support system. Appreciate people. If you want to be appreciated, start that, and by doing that, it rubs on people and it comes back to you. So be a support system. Find a support system that will you know help you embrace this attitude of gratitude. Otherwise, thank you so much, Mucha, for that, and Rita, I've learned so much, and also for the members online. It has been
Yeah.
really a pleasure. Yeah.
Fantastic. I always say that it's amazing how the team puts together the panel because the panel is always phenomenal and the panel always gels well together. I think that both of you have shared some insights that are absolutely phenomenal. So I can see a summary here of the tips that Rita shared, and I know that there'll be a summary shortly of the tips that you shared, Stephen. So let me just recap them. Rita says, number one, keep a gratitude list. 5 things every day and don't repeat, and you'll be amazed at how you find 5 more things every single time. Number two, count your wins, the things that you did well every single day, and give yourself a high five. And then number three, give a compliment, express gratitude to someone every single day. I think that's a really great number of challenges for us to do. So give a compliment, express gratitude to someone every single day. Look for something you can appreciate, and I think that one also means don't repeat, right? So thank you for that. Stephen talked about the fact that be aware of the goals you're setting, right? So set smart goals so that you can track your progress, so you do know what it is you've achieved. Number two, focus on yourself. Have that time by yourself reflecting on what it is that you have done. And now I'm trying to think of what number three was. Number three was, here we go. Number three was find a support system. Yes, find a support system. I mean, there's nothing else I can add. I think you guys are phenomenal. Thank you so, so much to you both for sharing these amazing insights on gratitude. And what I want to say as we wind up and as I release my panel, thank you for your amazing insights. As always, like I say, the panel always bring it. So we have brought the learning. I hope you've enjoyed your lunch as you've been listening into them. And now I'm going to release them so they can go and have their lunch. But thank you, Rita. Thank you, Stephen, for joining us today and for the amazing insights you've shared. Truly
Thank you.
appreciate
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you so much, and it was a pleasure
Enjoy.
doing this. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank
Thank
All
you
right.
very much. So before you all leave, allow me to share with you a challenge. We are kicking off a 7-day gratitude challenge that's going to include some of the things that you've heard us talk about today as we celebrate this month of gratitude. So on the 21st of September every year, we celebrate World Gratitude Day. Today, we're celebrating by appreciating the power of gratitude in our lives, for our personal lives and for our professional lives. And we've shared with you why an attitude of gratitude is so critical. We'll be launching a 7-day gratitude challenge in our Facebook group. And so I want to invite you to join our Facebook group so that you can participate in the gratitude challenge. And the 7-day challenge will also culminate a few days later with an EQ cafe that will be looking at how we can develop greater emotional intelligence. So every day for the next week, we're going to be supporting you to take a moment to express gratitude to and for everyone and everything that you have in your life. So to join our Facebook group, the link has been shared with you. So please do join our Facebook group and be part of the gratitude challenge. Thank you so much for being part of this conversation. As I always say, emotional intelligence is being more aware, it's being more intentional, and it's being more purposeful. And emotional intelligence is a critical skill for your success at work. The EQ Lunch and Learn is a series that has been designed to demystify what emotional intelligence is and show you how emotional intelligence isn't just another skill that you need to add to the plate. It is the plate upon which all other skills lie. Gratitude is a critical component of emotional intelligence. And what's exciting is it's a skill that you can learn. Because it is an attitude, you can learn to be more grateful, to shift your attention and focus on what's going well. And remember, as we've said throughout the course of this afternoon, what you focus on expands. So choose to focus on what you are grateful for. Thank you very much for your time. It's been great having you here. Looking forward to engaging with you at our next EQ Lunch and Learn. Thank you very much, guys. Goodbye.